Welcome to the Customer First Show, putting customers at the heart of your business. So good afternoon and welcome to our latest episode of the Customer First Show. Today, I'm really pleased that we're going to have a look at a very creative mind, and we've welcomed Sirte to the show. Sirte, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. My name is Sirte Pihlaja. I come from Sirte. We are the first customer experience agency in Finland, and we just turned 10 years old. I have more than 25 years of experience in customer experience related job roles from previously from big IT consultancy groups. Been working both with domestic clients and also globally with international clients for the whole of my career. And I'm also heading the activities of the Customer Experience Professionals Association in Finland, being one of the founding members and I'm also on the advisory board internationally.
Yeah, so I've seen that. So you're part of shaping the direction, and you have been doing this for a while now. So you're, as you say, one of the founding members. You really help shape a lot of the current profession. Would you say? Is that fair for me to say?
Well, I would say so. It seems that I start to be the oldest one on the job usually nowadays.
Wonderful.
So and also we have been trying to, especially with the CXPA, we have been trying for 8 or 9 years already now that we've been running it since 2013. So elaborate or help people develop their customer experience and management skills at large in Finland, and also a little bit abroad, because this fall we did the global CX day with 10 countries that participated.
And you're also championing sort of CX in the Nordics region. Just tell us a little bit about that, what that work involves, please.
Well, championing in the Nordics, and also we're starting an agency in Singapore, so hopefully in Southeast Asia soon as well. But mainly it's been consisting of just generic customer experience management related work. Mostly I would say strategy in the strategy sphere. And then, well, of course, we did a lot of voice of customer related projects a few years back. Now, suddenly it seems to be coming back. That I guess it's the second round of organizations are picking up that, hey, we should be maybe listening and understanding our customers a little bit better.
And would you say that should be an ongoing thing, right? We can't just do it once and then sit back for 10 years and wait for the next chief executive or chief marketing operator to come, a marketing officer to come, right? It should be an ongoing thing that companies should be doing anyway, would you say?
Totally. And nowadays, I think that it shouldn't be just about the voice of the customer. It should also be about the voice of the employees and the voice of the process. So you should be combining or marrying all of these different voices together to make it work as a whole. And I mean, customer journey mapping is another great example where people have so far been making customer journey maps as some kind of a checking the box kind of exercise, but it's really about managing those customer journeys. So you can create these intentional. Yes.
That's okay. I know what you're saying.
So yeah, so lately I think that people have also been doing a lot of customer journey mapping related work, and I don't think that should either be a check in the box kind of exercise, but rather you should be thinking of how could you really manage those customer journeys so that you really get those intentional customer experiences delivered to your customers.
So I want to pick up on that quickly, because that's something I agree. I've seen a lot of that where people think they need to do a journey map or a profile because they need to do one. But with any tool, there's no point doing a tool or doing a model unless you're going to use it for the right reason. Is that something you'd agree with?
That's correct. And I think that the customer journey mapping exercise should be always really, really connected or tied to these kind of development maps, that whether it's customer journey maps or voice of customer related customer feedback, that what are you actually going to be doing with that all of that data that you get. So another area where we are quite active is customer intelligence, which is basically the part where we're taking all of that data and merging it together to understand really what to do with these customers, how to better serve them.
No, really good, really important as well. So I introduced you as someone who tries to focus on the creative side, and obviously you are very much involved with this CX play. Tell us a little bit about what that means at a high level, and then we'll go into it a little bit deeper in a second.
Right, so you must be referring to me playing with Legos with adults. So we have been bringing the Lego serious play methodology and materials into CX related work and development, because I was for quite a while, I was many years looking for creative methodology that would really get the best out of people who were participating in workshops and who were creating these customer experiences. Because I think that if you take, I don't know, 3 teleoperators such as we have here in Finland that are competing against each other, they more or less have the same basic set of skills as far as their background is concerned and their training or the skills are, and then to really get that last bit of innovations and ideas and inspiring people to come up with very new solutions, you need to somehow be able to open up your mind to not be exactly like the competitor next door.
Yeah, and be able to show off why you're different, I guess, and why pick me rather than, if everyone's just the same, then we can just pick on price or availability, right? We don't pick on anything in terms of a specialism or a service.
Right. I mean, we've been all reading these prophecies about how product and service will not be the differentiating factor in 2020. I think that passed already. But I think that we have really learned last year that in 2021 what you need to be concentrating on is and differentiating you with is the customer experience. And then you need to really put your mind into it so that you don't go with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and I had a discussion a few days ago with somebody exactly about customer experience is saying, oh, it's something we're developing and it's the last 10 years. And I sort of pulled him up and I said, look, customer experience isn't a new thing. It's not been 10 years. I can remember 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago. I can't remember that far directly, but it starts when if you went to a local business and that business maybe ordered you some special cheese or a special newspaper or made a friendly smile and a welcome. That's how they used to differentiate. So customer experience isn't new. What we're saying isn't new. What we're saying is that we really need to understand now, because if everyone's going to be deliver the same kind of quality of products, what we're talking about is how can we be more creative maybe, and how can we be more customer specific? What would you describe that as?
Yes, I think you have right. You have got it right there. That we used to go to these convenience stores, and they were called convenience for a reason, because they really thought about your needs and what you were expecting to get. And somehow we have drifted into this world where companies and organizations are becoming bigger and bigger, and the client or the customer isn't that important to them anymore. They sort of forget where the money comes in from. So therefore, I think that where you should be really focusing on now is your every single customer. I mean, there are of course ways to think about them as a mass, but you shouldn't be thinking about them as a mass. I hate the fact when, I don't know, if I go to a hotel and the first thing they ask me there is, what's your booking number? Then I go and have a breakfast. Then they say that, hey, what's your room number? And when you check out, they ask for your credit card number and so on and so on. So you're always just this number for them. Or if you call, I don't know, a support center, most of the time you're some ticket number for them. So that's something that I personally don't want to experience, and I don't want anybody else to have to endure that either. So people have names, Naeem, Sirte, and they have backstories. So you should really think about that.
No, I agree. And we could get into a discussion about Google Glass here, which I saw the demo at least 5 or 6 years ago now. It's a shame that's not come to fall. But what I'd like to talk a little bit more about is, could you go in a lower level and tell me a little bit more about CX Play and give maybe some examples of how you help this happen?
And originally it was meant for strategy work. So there's a bit an application for strategy work. There's a bit which is for identity building and culture related work, because you know how culture eats strategy for breakfast. So they realized that they needed something to really help them to get those strategies into action. And then there's a third application, or fourth actually, which is called the Beast, which is about situations that are a lot like the current day where we are living in, where there's a lot of disruption in organizations. They might have mergers, acquisitions. They might need to put different companies together and have a new look at their culture, how they're and customer experience for that matter, how to serve their customers better. So we have based on those applications, which are the original ones, and some work that we have put into it, is that we have come up with this application called CX Play, which is then specifically meant for customer experience management related works, such as CX strategy building or customer journey mapping that we were discussing earlier on, or creating personas, all of that basic stuff, but also going towards cultural changes, transformation, all of that. Okay. And really helping to create that framework, CX framework for your company, and how to create these customer experiences with an agile approach.
Okay, and can you tell me, some examples of where you've done this, or why do you think this approach is working? I almost feel like it's the play element, unlocking the creative side. But you tell me, how do you think this works better than, say, some other approaches?
I would say that it fast tracks all the discussions that people have around the different subjects, because when they are set into that workshop with the Legos, they start to get into this flow mode. And that's the whole point of using the Legos, is that when you're in play, you're just giving all of your in. We call them also lean forward meetings, because instead of leaning backward and having maybe their arms crossed and looking at their phones constantly, people instead, what they're doing is that they're getting up, they're talking to each other, they're talking through the Legos. And they have a totally different language. I always used to say to people that we're on a language course today, so I'm going to teach you a totally new language when we do this workshop. And it's lots of fun, but it's not only about the fun factor, because it's definitely not team building. You can't just lay a bunch of bricks on the table and say that, hey, go forth and play us. That you need to have this very strict methodology and for facilitating those meetings as well. And the way the Lego Serious Play workshops move forward is that there's always a skills building part in the beginning. So it's kind of a warm up, but where you're also actually learning what to do with those Legos. And then the facilitator gives you these challenges, and each person individually creates their models as their response to the challenge that they have been given. And then they explain or describe their own response or their models to everybody else. Everybody else is to listen very carefully to what other people are saying around the table. And then once everybody has had their say, then the next round is about creating a shared model or a landscape model together, so that they put all of those views together. So the main thing here is that everybody has got their say into the thing, and it gives them more of this feeling of participation, and they get much more engaged. And while doing it through this playful lens, looking at your business, it's a totally different thing.
So in terms of the way a workshop might go, some people might find this difficult to sort of understand how it can go. Can you maybe give me an example or two how you've done this for a client, and the kind of outcome or what they've achieved with that kind of approach?
Of course. So at the most basic level, what we do is that what we have been doing, for instance, with banks, is that we have been creating these personas with them, so that they have a representative of their customers and clientele, and then creating customer journeys with those for those personas, and really having these conversations around these people, that instead of putting ejected into a box. We're rather discussing about the personas, who they are, what their characteristics are, and it gives a totally different flair to personas when you're doing this with little minifigs, or it doesn't need to be minifigs. It could be, you know, metaphorical concepts of people and what their different likes and wants are. So it's
and it can bring that to
discussion.
life, can't it? It can bring that person to life. You know, it sounds like if I see a little character, I can feel and I can visualize that person a little bit better than just thinking of a piece of paper. Is that right?
That's correct, because the conversations are always around the models, and people are not. We're trying to create this safe environment where people can share their ideas and understandings of their customers and whatever opinions they have about them, so that they can share everything about those little customer minifigs that they can think of.
Ah, brilliant. And then you also mentioned that, you know, obviously then people bring their worlds together within the company. So from an employee point of view, I'm guessing that has another positive impact on that side as well.
We have been doing some totally different kind of workshops then with related to employee experiences, really, with this big media company or group where we had two different business units that got merged together, and they had quite different cultures, or like working cultures to begin with. And with them, they had a kickoff day where half of the day was using Legos and Lego Serious Play to have these conversations between the employees, so that they could share between each other their understanding of their clients and their customers, but also of the way of work that they want to be perceived, and what they thought was a good employee experience in their previous jobs or previous business unit, and so on. So we got a lot of feedback from that workshop, that they were actually coming much closer together because they had these talks than if they had, you know, a survey where somebody would just inbox something. So it brings these conversations into life in a totally different way.
Brilliant. And I've heard so many good piece of feedback from this. You know, even we was running a CXPA, I was listening to a CXPA event in the US, and someone mentioned your name, and they were saying how positive the impact had on the workshop, because in a way it was almost like we're just with Lego. You know, we're not dealing with serious things, but obviously inside there is a deeper serious element. But I think it allowed people to unlock some of the barriers they had to maybe discuss what they maybe would have been scared of doing before. Is that something you've seen regularly?
Yes, and that's actually something that I have not more often than not had people come to me after the workshop. First of all, there's these people who are enthusiastic about it and who are more extroverts, who say that that was so, like, I feel so, you know, I've never given so much out of myself in a one day's workshop or half a day or whatever it has been. But then there's this other part where people who are more like introverted, who get to say their thing out loud once, so they get to participate with everybody because they're all on the same level together. And sometimes I get these other people who are then referring to these introverts that I didn't know that guy was so clever that he's never uttered a single word in when we've had meetings. So it puts somehow everybody on the same level of discussion, and it doesn't kind of matter what role you have in the organization, because everybody gets their turn.
Yeah, no, good, very good. Okay, let's move it on a little bit. So you also deliver a lot of these workshops around the world, I understand. I mean, how is that changing now? COVID, can't travel. How do you scale that up now? How do you get your Lego play, the benefit of it, around the world? How is that going to work?
That's a really good question. I did run around with, you know, huge luggage with suitcases with me all around the world, to Singapore, to the US, to wherever, UK many times, for instance. It was a burden, really, to go with those Legos. So and of course it has this this environmental aspect as well to think of. But we have actually been able this year to develop an online version of CX Play. So whatever we have been doing face-to-face earlier on, we are doing it now online. It's just a question of getting the right camera angles and getting everybody, into the play and really put their minds into it. And I think that one thing that usually people are saying that they're so fed up of all of these Zoom meetings, back to back for the whole day. But when they're doing the Lego stuff, they don't realize that once they're into the flow, they don't even realize that, hey, we're not in the same room really. That's
Yeah.
the kind of feedback that I have at least been receiving, that, hey, you must be doing something right because I didn't realize I was in front of my Zoom.
No, brilliant. And I guess that's something we all need to do. So tell me also then about your CX2 customer experience 2 book inclusion. Obviously your chapter was around your CX Play concepts, but how has that helped you, or what's that achieved for you being included in that project?
Actually, my chapter was about the role of play in growing business. So it was the case example that I brought forth in it was Lego Serious Play, but to put it into the context, I think that really it is about the play aspect in it and getting everybody on their creative side. The thing is that you don't need to be like these Googles and company where they have playgrounds and slides and whatever, in the buildings. I don't know, but rather it's about what you have between your own ears. What's important, that you can really change your mindset by using these methodologies, and that's the most important aspect that you get from it. That don't take it so seriously, even though it's serious.
Yeah.
Makes it
And
so much easier. And to your other question about what the book has given me is of course a lot of new friends, actually, because there were 23 other collaborators in addition to myself writing this book. So I've got this whole network of people that I know now, and that has actually been one of the main I think things during this year, that I have another network that has been also springing up during this year, which is about the same number of people, and I'm like in constant contact with them like every day. So it has changed a lot my work and who I'm working with in a way, and networking.
very good.
But of course I do get it was a bestseller in I think 3 continents, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of people who do then contact me as well. So that has been another positive aspect from it. Usually it's people who just ask for advice, and I'm really willing to help them out. So that was my main reason to really contribute to this book, was not to make a fortune out of it, but rather maybe help. I'm hoping that I'm helping at least one person out, and I think that there's been plenty now. So it was well worth the trouble.
Definitely, and again, it grows your network. So in terms of your other networks, then you said you've developed some more networks, and I think one of them is it the CX Cares initiative. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. So CX Cares got into life really from a bunch of us who wanted to just share ideas and thoughts and feelings during the lockdown and all of this COVID happening around us. And first it was just about exchanging ideas and helping each other out. But then we soon realized that we wanted to help everybody else around in the CX profession as well. And then we got this idea that let's do these reports and publish them. So now we have already done 3. So there's one for the hospitality sector, which obviously was the first one, since it was probably the one that was most affected by the pandemic. Then we did a white paper on the future of customer experience and what kind of skills you would need in the future to be a professional, CX professional. And then the third one that we just published before Christmas, and the retail was the retail one.
Yeah.
So those 3, we do have a few coming up still, but let's see when they are published.
But it's a good initiative, though. As you said, the idea of the initiative was to support people, and I see that a lot in the CX community. There's a lot of empathy, there is a lot of support available. With that rolling forward, what do you think you'll be doing with CX Cares in the future?
we do have a LinkedIn group that we invite people to as well. So we're sharing ideas there. So it's not just about, I don't know, there's 40 of us in that core group of CX Cares, but now that it's been growing, that there's constantly new people coming to CX Cares LinkedIn group, and it's just a way of exchanging ideas between CX professionals, and supporting each other by that as well.
Brilliant.
And I think that that's something that we're going to be continuing to do, even if there's no need to do these calls within our network anymore, with the pandemic hopefully fading away.
Hopefully soon, but I think that's a fantastic initiative, and it shows good, really good leadership. So well done to everyone involved in that. So just as we look to wrap up, a lot's changed in the last 12 months. Where do you think CX professionals, practitioners, where do you think their attention should be at the moment, and where do you think it will continue to change over the next 6 months, 12 months?
Well, obviously, I would urge everybody to think about play as part of their everyday development work. Other than that, we're doing a customer experience management international benchmark every year. We've been doing it for 8 years in Finland, and now this marked the first year that we did it internationally. And the main activities that companies or organizations at large seem to be focusing on or investing their development money on in the upcoming 12 months is customer intelligence. So I think that that's something that is definitely out there, and people should be picking up the data that they currently are gathering about their customers and clients, and make that into a systematic management process, so that they can actually at some point benefit from having all that data. Because the thing that I generally hear from my clients is that, hey, we have a bunch of data, but we don't know what to do with it. And it's not structured or whatever. It's everywhere, So that's something you should probably start thinking about.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
Since everything is now going to digital anyhow, you're going to be needing ways of automating some of your customer experience related.
So it's important to capture the data, but also important to think ahead what you're going to do with the data. As you say, there's no point just capturing data and having the data. Think about what you're going to do it. And I'm guessing the third thing would be to maybe do some kind of automation or some intelligence to say, if someone shows the following characteristics, do something with it. Is that fair?
I would say that yes, because it's the same thing as with voice of customer, that it shouldn't be just measuring things. I hate the word measure customer experience, because they just don't go to get well together to me. You should always create the process that supports both gathering and then utilizing that information or data, and then understanding that, hey, we're not here as our profession is not to be a fireman. We're not supposed to be there fighting fires, but rather we should be looking ahead, and what comes next, and what could we do to serve our customers even better in the future.
Perfect. Okay, that's a great way to end this. Look, I've really enjoyed listening to you. I think anybody who's looking for a way to come up with a creative way to review, I think, most aspects of their internal CX should seriously consider CX Play. I think they can read your chapter in the book, but I think every time I've spoken to you, you've been so friendly. I think people should reach out to you. Is that fair?
Thank you. That's nicely said. Yes, I can be reached at both LinkedIn. I have at Sirte Pihlaja, or then we have our own website at www.shirute.fi. And then, of course, for CX Play, it's cxplay.fi. So that's short and sweet.
Perfect. We'll put the links in the video, but thank you very much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing the whole CX Play concept grow over the next decade.
Thank you so much, Naeem, for inviting me. It was a pleasure.